Imagine like a hostage situation where the ransom is literally your child's future. And the negotiator handling this whole standoff is a supercomputer.
Right, which sounds like total sci-fi.
It does. But that is actually the exact scenario playing out for middle-class families in India today. Well, minus the supercomputer part.
Yeah.
At least for now.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now, you're working incredibly hard to provide for your family, but you're staring down this reality where the free public education system is, widely perceived as broken.
Completely broken.
Yeah.
And because of that perception, you're essentially forced to spend this colossal, disproportionate percentage of your hard-earned income on private schooling.
It's a classic economic trap, really. When a public good severely underperforms, it creates this massive vacuum of desperate demand.
Right.
And the private sector steps into that vacuum, completely willing and able to capitalize on that desperation. I mean, the leverage is entirely in the hands of the private institutions.
Because they know parents don't view this as a luxury purchase.
Yeah.
It's a biological imperative to protect your kids,
Exactly. You'll pay whatever it takes.
Well, welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at a stack of theoretical policy papers and economic blueprints that propose a radical AI-driven mission to solve this exact crisis.
And the core philosophy of these sources is really about fundamentally changing how we classify education in the first place.
Yeah, they argue we have to stop viewing it as a commercial market and reclassify it as core national infrastructure. Think about, like, the power grid or the highway system.
Right, because when something is infrastructure, it has to be maintained, optimized, and most importantly, protected from pure profit-driven exploitation.
Exactly. So the theoretical blueprint we're unpacking today proposes using an AI-driven administration to act as that incorruptible negotiator. And it starts with a massive overhaul of how much these private schools are actually allowed to charge.
The sources outline a deeply aggressive first step to stop the financial bleeding. They call it algorithmic fee standardizing.
Which is desperately needed because currently the private system relies on a systematic process of just nickel and diming parents to death.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you get hit with charges for smart classes, mandatory air conditioning fees.
Even coal maintenance.
Yeah.
Even if your kid never swims.
Right, and these incredibly opaque annual development charges. And then you have the false monopolies, where a school requires you to buy uniforms and textbooks exclusively from one vendor.
A vendor who charges a massive premium, of course.
Exactly, effectively kicking back the profit directly to the school management.
So it's this closed ecosystem designed to extract maximum wealth. To break that ecosystem, the blueprint introduces a mechanism called the Matrix of Fair Pricing.
Which is such a cool name for a policy tool.
It really is. As I was reading this, my first thought was that it basically functions as an automated lie detector test for a school's accounting department.
That's a great way to put it.
Instead of a board of humans debating what a school deserves to charge, this AI continuously audits the financial sheets of every single private school. It sets a strict, transparent cap based on objective reality.
And the methodology behind that automated lie detector is fascinating. The AI doesn't just, read the self-reported spreadsheets the school hands over.
Right, because those can be faked.
Exactly. It pulls verified data from external, objective sources. So the matrix interfaces with municipal land registries to figure out the actual geographic cost of real estate in that specific neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it integrates with tax databases to verify the actual salaries being paid out to teachers. So schools can't claim these massive payrolls while secretly underpaying their staff.
It even pulls raw utility data straight from the power grid, right?
It does. By processing this huge convergence of raw data, the AI calculates the genuine operating cost of the school, and then it sets a fee cap that just violently eliminates those hidden profits.
Okay, but I have to throw a massive red flag on the play here. My immediate concern is the risk of stifling innovation. Well, if a school genuinely wants to build, like, a state-of-the-art robotics lab, or hire a specialized astrophysicist to teach an advanced elective, does this matrix just forbid them from charging for it?
Ah, I see what you mean.
Like, are we forcing every school to be painfully average, stripping away all the unique specialized programs just to keep the baseline costs low?
That is the knee-jerk reaction from a free market perspective, for sure, but the source material actually anticipates that exact pushback.
Okay, what's their answer?
The goal of the matrix is transparency, not enforced mediocrity. A school is entirely free to build a cutting-edge robotics lab. The AI just intervenes in the accounting of that lab.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, so if a school tries to hike tuition by 30%, claiming they're building a new science wing. The automated regulatory system cross-references the actual capital expenditure.
It checks the receipts.
Literally, it checks the construction permits, the invoices for the robotic equipment, the payroll for the astrophysicist. If the expenditure is real, the fee cap adjusts accordingly.
But if it's a fictional charge,
If it's just padding the management's profit margins under the guise of development, the AI flags the anomaly instantly.
and the enforcement mechanism isn't just like a polite warning letter that gets tied up in bureaucracy for years. The blueprint details that the system would immediately freeze the school's accounts or penalize the management directly.
The speed of enforcement changes the entire power dynamic. I mean, consider the current reality for a parent facing an unfair, sudden fee hike.
It's a nightmare.
It is. Their only recourse is to band together with other exhausted parents, hire legal representation, and fight this multi-year, incredibly expensive court battle against a well-funded school lobby.
Which most parents just do not have the time or money for.
Exactly. The AI removes that entire burden. By automating the regulation, enforcement happens in real time, completely bypassing the legal attrition that private schools currently rely on to wear parents down.
Okay, but here is the fatal flaw in just capping fees. If the AI crushes private school budgets and forces them to operate on thin margins, some of those schools might just let their quality plummet or shut down entirely.
That's a very real risk, yeah.
And if the public schools are still failing, parents are now trapped with two equally terrible options. You cannot just cap private school fees and declare victory without giving parents a viable, high-quality alternative.
You have to fix the other half of the equation.
Exactly. So how does this blueprint actually rescue the public system? The text uses a term that honestly made me extremely nervous: the Uberization of public education quality.
I know that word carries a lot of baggage. But the mechanism driving it is a network of what the blueprint calls centralized AI learning co-pilots.
Okay.
We have to acknowledge the physical limitations of the current government school system. Many of these schools, especially in remote or underserved areas, are severely understaffed. And the faculty they do have might lack specialized training in advanced subjects. The AI co-pilot is engineered to bypass those human bottlenecks entirely. The proposal equips every government classroom with advanced multilingual learning modules that operate in tandem with the human teacher.
Let's dig into how that actually works on the ground. Because I'm thinking about a rural school that might not even have reliable internet, let alone high-tech infrastructure.
A very valid point.
But the sources mention edge computing and offline tablet syncing, meaning the AI doesn't actually need a constant broadband connection to function. It can process the student's inputs locally and customize the lesson on the fly.
Yes.
So if a child needs a complex math concept explained in Hindi, or a specific regional dialect, or if they just learn better through visual simulations rather than text, the co-pilot adapts the curriculum instantly to that individual brain.
It establishes a remarkably high baseline of educational quality that completely removes the luck of the draw. A student's potential is no longer bottlenecked by whether they happen to get assigned to a brilliant teacher or an overwhelmed, undertrained one.
The technology bridges the gap.
Exactly. However, that Uberization concept you mentioned comes into play with how the system manages the human element in those classrooms. It utilizes something called objective teacher tracking.
And this is where my alarm bells start ringing at full volume.
I figured they might.
When I hear Uberization applied to a workforce, I immediately picture the dystopian side of the gig economy. I picture an Uber driver terrified of getting a 4-star review because an algorithm might deactivate their livelihood.
Right.
Are these policy papers seriously suggesting we turn public school teachers into gig workers who are constantly being judged, surveilled, and potentially fired by an unfeeling black box algorithm?
It sounds incredibly harsh, I admit, until you compare it to the system it is replacing. The current model of human school inspections is deeply flawed. Well, in many areas, it's highly prone to local corruption, political nepotism, or just basic laziness. An inspector visits a school once a year. The administration puts on a highly choreographed performance.
What a dog and pony show.
Exactly. The inspector checks a box and nothing fundamentally improves for the students. A terrible teacher faces zero consequences, and a brilliant, dedicated teacher gets zero systemic reward.
I see.
The AI replaces performative inspection with objective observation. It isn't rating teachers on an arbitrary 5-star scale. It's analyzing objective learning outcomes based on the data the students are generating through their co-pilots.
So it's looking at the actual, measurable progress of a child's reading fluency or math comprehension over 6 months, rather than relying on a human inspector's mood on a random Tuesday.
Precisely. Furthermore, the consequences outlined in the blueprint are designed to be constructive, not merely punitive.
Okay, that's a relief.
Teachers who consistently deliver excellent, measurable results are automatically rewarded. The system triggers direct deposit bonuses to their accounts. This completely cuts out the bureaucratic middleman who might normally siphon off those funds or distribute them based on favoritism.
And what about the teachers who are struggling?
For the schools or teachers that the data shows are genuinely struggling, the AI doesn't immediately fire them. It automatically allocates specialized, targeted training resources to address the specific pedagogical gaps it identified.
So it's data-driven accountability designed to build capacity, not just punish failure.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've explored the macro-level reforms. We have capped transparent private fees, and we have upgraded AI-assisted public schools.
Right.
But what elevates this blueprint from a standard policy paper to something truly radical is how it zooms all the way into the micro level. It looks at the kitchen table of an individual family trying to make their monthly budget work.
Wait, because even with capped tuition and better public schools, every single family's financial reality is unique and volatile.
Right. This brings us to the system's transition into dynamic needs-based subsidies.
If you look at current government welfare or subsidy programs, they are incredibly rigid, very bureaucratic.
Yeah.
They categorize citizens into flat, immovable blocks.
Like you're the wealthy block or the middle class block or the below poverty line block, all based on last year's tax return.
Exactly. But human life doesn't operate in flat blocks. Real life involves sudden, devastating variables. A parent loses a job in November. A family is hit with massive out-of-pocket medical debt in March. A localized economic downturn destroys a small business overnight.
And the AI, because it's constantly processing real-time data integrations, can actually perceive those sudden variables.
Yes.
The blueprint outlines a very specific mathematical trigger, the 15% threshold.
It's a fascinating metric.
Through secure financial APIs and banking flags like unemployment filings or sudden spikes in medical debt, the AI monitors the household's economic health. If the data reveals that a middle-class family is suddenly spending more than 15% of their total income on a child's basic educational costs, the system intervenes.
And the intervention happens automatically. That is the critical paradigm shift here. The AI issues direct benefit vouchers to instantly bridge the new financial gap.
I really want you, the listener, to pause and absorb the sheer amount of mental bandwidth and trauma that is saved by that one word, automatic.
It's huge.
If you have ever had to navigate a government assistance program, you know the process is an absolute nightmare. It involves massive stacks of physical forms. You have to prove your poverty and your desperation over and over again to skeptical clerks.
You wait in lines, you deal with lost paperwork.
You suffer the indignity of begging for a safety net. The red tape is literally designed to be exhausting. The idea that a digital system simply notices you are drowning and silently, automatically throws you a life preserver, that completely redefines the relationship between a citizen and their government.
It represents the total elimination of administrative friction. And importantly, to prevent fraud or misallocation, these subsidies are not deposited as liquid cash into the parent's bank account.
Oh, where do they go?
The vouchers are routed directly to the verified educational institution. This architectural choice ensures ultimate stability for the student.
Oh, that makes sense.
Whether the parents are going through a temporary layoff, a brutal business quarter, or a medical crisis, the child's education remains entirely uninterrupted. The child's intellectual development is completely insulated from the parent's temporary financial hardship.
Which brings us back to the core premise. Education as infrastructure. You don't lose your right to drive on the national highway just because you had a bad month at work. Your child shouldn't lose their seat in a classroom for the same reason. But saving money on tuition is ultimately useless if the shadow ecosystem surrounding the schools bankrupts you anyway.
Ah, yes, the coaching mafia.
The sources dedicate a massive section to the cultural obsession with examinations, and specifically, the mission to dismantle this coaching industry.
The coaching industry is arguably the most deeply entrenched, culturally complex issue from the AI blueprint attempts to dismantle.
If you're not intimately familiar with the Indian education landscape, there are these massive, hyper-stressful coaching hubs. Cities like Coda are the most infamous examples. Entire regional economies are built around tutoring teenagers for ultra-competitive engineering and medical entrance exams.
It's a massive industry.
Families liquidate their savings, they take out massive loans just to send their kids to these institutes. And the pressure placed on these students is famously, tragically intense, often leading to severe mental health crises.
That's heartbreaking.
And the only reason this multi-billion-dollar shadow industry even exists is because the standard high school curriculum is fundamentally disconnected from the brutal reality of these high-stakes competitive exams.
Right. The coaching industry didn't create the panic. It simply monetized a systemic failure. The traditional education system created an artificial choke point.
That one massive exam.
Exactly. When a single day, a single multiple-choice test dictates the entire trajectory of a human life, panic is the only logical response from parents. And parental panic is the most profitable commodity on earth for these coaching centers.
So what's the AI's solution?
The AI solution is to entirely eradicate that artificial choke point by dismantling the one exam decides your life model altogether.
Okay, so if we delete the massive entrance exam, what does the AI replace it with to determine college admissions?
The blueprint replaces the single performance with continuous, stress-free assessment. Instead of ignoring a student's nuance for 12 years and then throwing them into a high-stakes gladiator arena for 3 hours, the AI co-pilots in the classroom continuously assess the student over years of regular daily schoolwork.
It fundamentally changes what is being measured.
Yes. It moves away from rote memorization and utilizes behavioral data to map a holistic set of metrics. Spatial aptitude, creative problem-solving, logical reasoning, and cognitive resilience when faced with difficult concepts.
Okay, the text claims that university admissions would then rely on a deep, unhackable data profile of the student's true merit. But I really have to challenge this premise aggressively.
Go for it.
Skipping one massive, terrifying exam sounds fantastic on paper, but replacing it with 15 years of continuous algorithmic surveillance, doesn't that just take the concentrated anxiety of one exam and stretch it out over a child's entire lifetime?
This is a common fear.
Does this turn every single assignment, every digital drawing, every hesitant answer in class into a relentless, invisible test? That sounds wildly dystopian to me.
It is a profound philosophical concern, absolutely. But the blueprint clarifies the distinction between assessment as a performance versus assessment as observation.
Explain that difference.
Think of it like how a sophisticated streaming algorithm figures out your movie tastes. It doesn't force you to sit down once a year and take a massive, highly stressful written exam on the history of cinema to prove what you like.
Right.
It just quietly observes your natural behavior. It notices what genres you click on, what you skip after 10 minutes, and what complex narratives you rewatch. Over time, it builds an incredibly accurate profile of your cinematic preferences without ever making you feel tested.
Oh, that's a really interesting analogy.
The educational AI operates on a similar, albeit vastly more complex, observational principle.
So it isn't punishing a student for giving a wrong answer on a Tuesday. It's looking for the underlying architecture of how their brain processes the wrong answer and eventually finds the right one.
Exactly. It maps the way a child thinks. And this invisible, continuous mapping is what causes the coaching industry to simply evaporate.
Because there's nothing to cram for.
Right. You can easily hack a standardized test by taking a 6-month intensive course on multiple choice elimination tricks. You cannot hack a decade of observed natural cognitive behavior.
Wow.
By removing the high-stakes choke point, you remove the artificial scarcity. If the university algorithm already knows exactly what you are genuinely brilliant at based on 15 years of objective data, cramming at a coaching center becomes mathematically useless.
It is a breathtaking thought experiment. When you pull all the way back and look at the entire massive architecture we've discussed today, the fee capping, the AI classroom modules, the automatic subsidies, the death of the entrance exam, it all boils down to a fundamental conflict between human management and AI management in systems of extreme national scale.
The source material constructs a deeply compelling argument about the inherent vulnerability of human systems. Human-managed infrastructures are profoundly susceptible to lobbying.
Yeah?
Private school conglomerates and billionaire coaching center owners form powerful political action committees. They manipulate legislation to protect their profit margins. Human regulators can be bribed, they can be swayed by wealthy donors at fancy dinners, or they can simply succumb to bureaucratic fatigue.
But the AI coordinator outlined in these papers doesn't experience fatigue. It has no political ambitions. It doesn't need to secure campaign donations for re-election, and it certainly doesn't care about the social influence of a wealthy school board.
It operates on a sole, incorruptible mathematical mandate to maximize the intellectual capital of the entire nation while aggressively protecting the financial stability of the individual middle-class family.
It acts as the ultimate unbribable referee, attempting to finally transition education from a desperate luxury you have to buy into an undeniable right maintained by the infrastructure.
It offers a frictionless, optimized society where human potential isn't wasted by economic bottlenecks.
It is a mesmerizing vision of the future, taking this agonizing generational stressor and handing the keys over to a system designed, down to its core code, to be perfectly fair.
It really is.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. We spent a lot of time discussing this AI, building a flawless, unhackable profile of a student's true merit from childhood.
Right.
If we accept the premise that an algorithm knows exactly who you are, how your brain works, and what career you are perfectly suited for based on 15 years of immaculate data, what happens to the late bloomers?
That's a great question.
What happens to the kid who is empirically terrible at math until they turn 22, experience something profound, and suddenly become obsessed with theoretical physics? Does a perfectly optimized predictive educational system risk stripping away the fundamental human right to completely reinvent yourself? To fail spectacularly, change your entire identity, and try something completely different without an all-knowing algorithm keeping score? It is a heady question to carry with you as we accelerate toward a perfectly optimized world.